All right, we are back. We are back yet again for another very special edition of the Run the Jewelz podcast show and vidcast series. I'm your host, King Jewelz here, Julian Smartrimple. Diving in for some excellent episodes this season. And so if this is your first time joining with us, welcome to the Run the Jewelz podcast show. We are a lifestyle podcast show that was created to inspire young professionals and millennial entrepreneurs who want to learn wisdom on how to shine brighter in their careers or their businesses. And so if you are a millennial, or if you are a Gen Zer, or even if you may be a baby boomer, you are still in the right place to hear all the jewels that my special guest is going to drop on us for today's episode, you all. Also, if you're interested in being a guest on one of our podcast shows, if you have what it takes as a dynamic king or a queen with a phenomenal testimony, or even if you are an entrepreneur or a young professional that is blazing the trail in your industry, feel free to click the link that we're putting in the comment section below right now to sign up for a potential interview, and our team will go through your information and let you know if we have any more open slots for this season, you all. And you are in for a treat this season. We have a ton of dynamic entrepreneurs and young professionals that we are interviewing, and so stay tuned. Also, you can listen to us on any podcast streaming platform that you listen to your favorite podcast or your favorite music artist on. And then we just recently started having live Q&A for our Smart Jewel listeners to get exclusive behind-the-scenes access even before our episode airs on our Wisdom and also on Twitter Spaces. And so if you are not familiar with Wisdom or even Twitter Spaces, definitely log in and follow myself, King Jewel Speaks, and you'll be able to dialogue with my very special VIP guest that I will be bringing on the podcast throughout this season. Also, if you have any questions at any time during the meeting and the interview today, do not be shy. This is a live show and also a live Q&A interview show. And so if you have any questions for my very special guest, just put them in the comment section for those who are watching our live podcast episode, or if you're on Wisdom or Twitter, you can feel free to come onto the stage and ask any questions at any time of the interview today. And so those are all of my housekeeping for our episode. Today's episode is titled How to Quit Your 9-to-5 by Building a Profitable E-commerce Business. And so if you're someone that is interested in going into e-commerce or any type of digital commerce space, you are in the right place to hear from my very special guest. I came across this King's page on Instagram, shout out to IG, and I saw that he was definitely a voice and also an expert when it comes to digital commerce and e-commerce. And I told him I definitely wanted to have him be one of our guests on this season for the RTJ show. And so I'm going to let him introduce himself, but he goes by the name of Tevin Holiday, and he is going to be talking to us about how he quit his 9-to-5 to pursue a profitable business in e-commerce. And he's also showing other entrepreneurs and other professionals how to do the same. And so without further ado, I introduce you to Tevin Holiday. Tevin, how you feeling today, King?
Hello, how are you doing? Great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Thank you again for taking time out to come share your jewels with us today, King. What we usually start off with is we allow the guests to tell our audience, where are you from, Tevin? Where are you currently residing at right now? And why is this an important subject for you to talk to our audience about today?
Of course, yeah. So my name is Tevin Holiday. I'm originally from the Gwinnett County area. If you're familiar with Atlanta, that's right outside of Atlanta. So like Metro Atlanta, but however, I reside in Atlanta currently. And the reason I want to talk about e-commerce and just making money online in general is just because we're moving into a new age, a digital age where it's almost a necessity to make, an extra income, or you making money where you're not really earning it with your time. So these are one of those high income skills that you can learn. And I think it's very important for, our people to pick up these type of skills that are actually paying, and not leave money on the table anymore. So it's a pleasure to be on here. Once again, I'm very grateful that you were able to reach out to me about this opportunity.
Absolutely, King. We appreciate you taking time out to share your knowledge with us. I know I used to work in Gwinnett County in Lawrenceville, so shout out to Gwinnett County on the north side. And I even currently reside in Cobb County, right by the Brave Stadium. So shout out to all the ATL creatives and entrepreneurs that we've had on the show this season. But let's start with you, Tevin. Like, stay with your background, man. Like, where did you learn and how did you get into the e-commerce or the digital commerce space? Like, did you start off young when you were in your teens, or did you learn in adulthood? Like, tell us your story about what got you into wanting to learn digital commerce and e-commerce.
Right. So originally I went to school at Kennesaw State. That's actually where I graduated from. But during my tenure there, I was just working like numerous jobs, minimum wage each job. And of course, I thought, like, at the time I was very grateful to be making money, but I just kind of knew that wasn't it. So right before graduation, I want to say when I was 21, I started my first clothing brand. It's called Project Knopf, and it's still active to this day. So that's originally how I got into the e-commerce space. That's probably like 2015. So that's about 8 years ago. Yeah, and I just remember my first sale, and it like completely opened my eyes. So from there, I just kind of doubled down on all the education, mentorships, courses, books, any type of information I could get, and really just turned it into a skill. And when it started to really roll in, that's where I just like, I always wanted to continue to learn from there. So that's originally how I got into the space, and I've probably been doing it 8 years straight at this point.
Wow, that's definitely a way to get into the industry, especially coming straight out of college. I actually went to KSU too, so I know we're both OWL alumni. So big up to Kennesaw State University. I also went to Hampton University in Virginia, so shout out to the HBCUs too. But yeah, stay with that point right there too, Tevin. I know in college, especially because you and I both went to KSU, the mindset is typically like, I'm a broke college student unless you are working your way through school, or unless your parents got the bag, or they are very well off. Like, how did you get to the point of wanting to learn a skill set in order to have income coming in that early? Like, what motivated you? Did you look up to someone who was already doing it, or did you have a coach or a mentor? Like, talk to us about your process.
Yeah, so my process was this is like before there was a lot of gurus, courses, and stuff like that. So it was really just like learning, right? Trials and tribulations. So that's really how I learned. So of course I made money, but also, I probably lost a lot of money by not having the education. But of course you learn from it, and it's really invaluable. So you're able to take those lessons and turn them into actual wins. And that's the beauty of the process right there. So I kind of just working, like I said, working those minimum wage jobs, and wasn't really like feeling satisfaction. So that's where I kind of typed in, how can I make money? And it's like drop shipping, e-commerce. So I was like, okay, cool. So it was fairly new right before it, like, now there's like a clothing brand trend. So I would like to say I was back then trying to hustle some type of way.
Yeah, the clothing line. I'm sure was tapping into your creative mindset too, especially wanting to build a brand for yourself, and that's a huge leg up when it comes into the digital commerce space, from what I hear from other people who are in that industry. And so, like, how did your clothing brand like show you the process of starting from scratch, and even tailoring your brand to make sure that it's a brand that other people want to support and other people want to be around? Like, talk to us about what lessons did you learn from starting your own clothing brand?
Right. So, one of the biggest things I learned is that just you got to be patient, but you also got to be ready to make a move. So, like, it's almost like a window of opportunity sometimes that you have to take. So it's never going to be a perfect time to start. Everything's not going to be perfect, but as long as we get started, You can figure it out from there. Like a puzzle. I like to think of run an e-commerce business as a puzzle that has a new piece added to it every single day. So you're just constantly figuring it out, and the picture's not always perfect, but it's enough to keep it moving, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then like get a good amount of sales at first before you pivoted, or was it just something that you stayed with just to have something as a project to do? Like how was the process of earning income? Was it successful or did you put it to bed?
Yeah, no, it was actually, I was doing sales consistently at first, and then of course everybody runs into it, especially if it's your first time. There's like a brick wall where it's really just a challenge for you to go to the next level, and sometimes you have to figure it out. But at the time during school, I was very active on it. So once I graduated from school, I felt like it was a period where it was hard for me to get a job. So in that time, I was really the clothes, and it was actually going well enough to like continue. But once I actually got my job, like my real corporate job, that's what I was using that income to pump it back into the clothing brand. That's kind of how like out of corporate. Like I was actually making money at the time. I was also at a drop shipping store. Was my job. Sorry, I like to use the word, so because I don't like to think of it as, but yeah. So that's pretty much how that worked out. I was actually making income before I made that move. And I highly suggest if you plan on doing the same to don't just jump off. Actually have a plan. Make sure you have your savings right. So I would never just sit here and say quit your job to do this, but I think it's actually important to use that income to supplement for your business or your side hustle or your dream, whatever it is.
Yeah, like what Tevin is telling us, you, myself, and any one of us have to have a plan before we're going into business, you all, because there are going to be those storms and those dry seasons that come. And so just like Tevin said, you have to count the cost and also store up for those rainy days or those emergencies. I want to stay with that point too, Tevin, right when we come back in a second, to stay with that same topic that you were just hitting on. But we want to pay homage to our VIP guests that we have for today as our sponsor. Each and every episode, we highlight a business or any type of service that we partner with our sponsors and our affiliates for our season episodes. And so let's take a look and see who our VIP sponsor or affiliate partner is for today, you all. Let's take a look. So shout out again to our VIP sponsor for today. Comes from none other than StreamYard, you all. StreamYard is a dynamic multi-live streaming platform that we even use with our team here, the RTJ show. It is a dynamic service provider where you can multi-stream on many different platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can even go, I think, onto Twitch and Twitter. And so if you're someone that is interested in making sure that you are in multiple places at the same time and reaching your audience that wants to hear from you and needs to hear from you, check out StreamYard. And you'll be able to click the link that we're putting in the comment section below to get an exclusive $10 off discounted rate just from being one of our Smart Jewel listeners. And so big up to StreamYard, and definitely click the link to get a discounted rate in joining as a content creator, a podcaster, or a StreamYard user today. But let's get back to Devin. I'm sorry, to Tevin. Let's get back to Tevin for our episode that we are in. If you're just catching us, we're on our episode, which is titled How to Quit Your 9-to-5 by Building a Profitable E-commerce Business. And so back to Tevin. Tevin, stay with that last point that you were saying, King. Like, did you have motivation from other family members or friends that were around you that were pushing you in to do something different versus just working a regular job or a regular 9-to-5? Or how was the support system from your family or friends or even your loved ones? Talk about that.
Yeah. So as far as like, getting into the entrepreneur space, I come from like a hardworking family. So everybody, we've all educated and had, jobs and stuff like that. But one day I would say I've never noticed that anybody's like super rich. So I just started to kind of study like ways that, actual rich people make their money. And it wasn't really necessarily working a job. So that's where I really started to get hungry and motivated to actually learn. And as far as like the support system, I think my family's going to support me, whatever I do. Most of my friends are going to support. I think I was one of the first people kind of having that mindset, and it just kind of rubbed off on all my friends. So yeah, we were very supportive of each other. We all had a business venture. So we were that was the people who really kept me motivated. Family, of course, supported, but I know they kind of were nervous at first, because of course they'd never seen anything like that. So they supported, but it wasn't really necessarily the biggest support, if that makes sense. So but yeah, I stay motivated. You got to kind of ignore that stuff right there, because people are going, when you're chasing your dreams, people are going to be uncomfortable with it. Family, friends, whoever. So, and it's fine. It's totally natural. You just got to kind of put your blinders on and keep it moving.
You're hitting it right on the head right there, King. You definitely have to keep it moving, keep it rolling, because everyone's not going to understand your journey or even understand your story. And so we're going to see if any of our listeners on Wisdom or Twitter Spaces has any questions for Tevin. Feel free to come on to the stage. We're talking to Tevin today about how he quit his 9-to-5 to build a successful and profitable e-commerce business. And so talk to us from the basics, King. Let's go ahead and dive in. What is e-commerce for those that may not know still today in this day and age, in this digital technology age? And why should one get into e-commerce or digital commerce?
Right, of course. So just to break it down as simple as possible, we all do shopping, whether that's going into an actual store, which is the brick and mortar business model, or a lot of us are ordering from Amazon websites, some of our favorite brands, and them buying online and them shipping it out to you is pretty much e-commerce, right? So e-commerce is just a big umbrella. So you have drop shipping under, you have D2C, you have coaching and all types of things under that. But e-commerce is just ultimately just selling something online. And there's so many benefits to it, because you don't have to necessarily put your time, or your time doesn't really equal how much money you make, right? So one thing we have to realize is that for us to actually get to the next level, we have to be able to make money while we're sleeping, right? So with e-commerce, if you're running ads or you have a viral video going on, you have some way to bring consistent traffic. You could be making money at any time. So there's times I wake up to X amount of money. There's times where I'm at the gym and I'm making money. There's times where I'm actively working on my business and I'm making money. So just any given time I can expect to sell. And not only that is that it allows you to pretty much work from anywhere in the world, right? So unless you're actually shipping packages out, that's like the only way I can actually say you don't have really a location freedom, but there's ways around it to where you could work in Alaska if you needed to. As long as you have Wi-Fi and a cellular connection, you're able to actually start making money online with e-commerce.
Absolutely. So shout out to all of the e-commerce entrepreneurs that are out there in the digital space. Tevin, like which platform do you recommend people get started on, and also like which platform did you start on when you first were getting into the e-commerce space?
Yeah, so a lot of people typically start with drop shipping. That's probably like the most simplest business model. And the good thing about it is that you don't have to have a big investment you don't have to have a big investment up front. So the business model behind drop shipping is that somebody buys a product from you, you're the third party seller, and you're directly paying the supplier to ship it out for you, right? So there's definitely drawbacks to it. It's not the perfect business model, but that's where most people will get started, and that's probably where like a lot of beginners start. That's really I took the other route besides clothing brand, but I actually did the clothing brand and drop shipping, and I currently have drop shipping stores myself. But that's probably like the easiest way. But also you can develop your own product, brand that somehow, and start shipping and start making sales from that. So that's really like the Shopify. Most people use Shopify, and you also have Amazon FBA, where you are, if people really don't realize that, like, most sellers on Amazon are not really Amazon, they're actually third-party sellers. So you can get started with that. It's a little bit bigger investment, but think of how many products that somebody buys from Amazon every single day. So there's different routes you could take, but I'm currently on like Shopify, building out brands, building out long-lasting brands that are going to last, for a couple of years.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what I hear. Just like Tevin is telling us, a lot of people start off on Shopify with clothing or with some type of product that they are selling. And so he's dropping a ton of jewels for today's episode, you all, and showing us the right plan and also the right steps to take in order to go into the e-commerce successful and also become profitable in the e-commerce space. And so, like, Tevin, stay with that point. Like, what on average, we always talk numbers on the RTJ show. What's the startup cost? And also, how much would you let people know that it costs to maintain the actual startup store or even the store itself?
Yeah. So, I mean, that question varies just based on what you're actually selling. But say if you wanted to start selling in the, with the least amount of an investment, we are in an age of TikTok and Instagram Reels where you can go viral with the right type of content, and millions of people can see your product. And that is free to get on, right? So essentially, for the cost of the item to shoot content, Shopify is a 3-month trial for $3, right? So $1 each month. So like I said, the cost of the product, $3, buying your domain. So we're right around $50, or not even, probably like $50 on average. And you can start promoting and making content just off your iPhone right there. So for $50, you can get started. And if you're making the right content, you can go viral and have hundreds of thousands of people, watch your product, and that drives traffic. And you can start making money for less than $50 in the e-commerce space. However, if you really want to develop a product, put your own brand on it, it can go anywhere from $500 to $1,500 to $2,500. Even like if you have a huge budget, I definitely suggest you not really all of your money, kind of developing the business credit, business funding play, and taking a chance that way. But it all comes down to really skill. So how hard do you really want to work? If you want to really work, a little bit harder, you could start for $50 and start making your first sale. And who knows what you could do? Like I've had viral videos and they've yielded 6 figures, right? So yeah, that's essentially like the price. It varies. It could go from $50, it could go to $2,500. Just depends on how hard you really want to work. Do you want to outsource a lot of work, or do you want to do the work yourself?
Yeah, no, Tevin is definitely giving us the blueprint of how much you're going to have to put in order to see how much you're going to make, and stay with the business structure side of it. Like you said, building up business credit. We talk a lot about financial literacy, and also building credit in order to maintain a successful business. Do you believe that someone should wait until they are profitable in order to start like a LLC or to open up an EIN number or a business account? Or do you think individuals who are serious about staying in the e-commerce space, should they go ahead and become incorporated or go through the Secretary of State wherever they may live? Like, what are your thoughts on structuring your e-commerce business?
That's a great question right there. I've sat and thought about this question before. And I think I've concluded, I don't think anyone is wrong. Like either answer is wrong as far as if you have a structure, because there's the benefits of that, with tax situations on write-offs and stuff like that. However, I don't see too many drawbacks from actually getting sales, and then from there, just being quick to actually get your LLC set up, get your bank account set up. So like, once you actually start making sales, don't lollygag to go get all that business structure set up. It's almost like as soon as you see it happen, take action on the structure. That's kind of how I would do it right there. Just so you don't have to waste too much money. A lot of people realize they don't want to do it, once it starts getting a little tricky and stuff like that. But that's my suggestion, to start making a few sales first. And once you actually feel like it's validated, that's when you can go set up your information, get your documents right.
Absolutely. And then stay with that point too right there, King, when it comes to like knowing what goods that you are going to sell. Like I hear a lot of folks that are in different mindsets of whether they go to Alibaba, whether they go to other sites to see like what is moving and what is actually merchandise that is being moved on a high level or high rate. How do you determine, especially in the clothing retail, the product sales business, like where would you go, or where would you recommend someone go to look up what items to sell?
Right. So you can start off with social media just in itself. Like I said, TikTok is a very powerful tool. What you can do is kind of train your For You page to find winning products. So for instance, if I'm in a clothing brand and I'm thinking about starting a brand and I want to, log down a few items, I would just go into TikTok search bar, maybe type in something that like new hoodie or new sweatpants, and see what's been selling, or see what like the most liked videos are in the last 30 days. That kind of give you an idea. That's just one way to do it. There's so many different product research methods. There's tools out there for you to help. But as far as the clothing brand, it just really depends on what you're selling. Like I said, you could drop ship items from AliExpress. You can actually sell digital products from like private label rights companies where you're not really creating the product. You don't have the hassle of that. You could develop your own product from local ingredients. It just really depends on what you want to offer. But yeah, Alibaba is a great place to start as far as like clothing and stuff. Develop a relationship with them. See if you could possibly get a conversation outside of Alibaba and like develop a real relationship and talk on WhatsApp. That way you guys can be quicker with the communication. But yeah, it just goes back to exactly what you want to brand, what you want to sell, what type of work do you want to do, what's your skill level at. It narrows down to those few things.
Absolutely. Like Tevin is saying, you have to know what you want. He's dropping those jewels and letting anybody who is an entrepreneur, or you're someone that actually is an entrepreneur or entrepreneur minded, You have to know what you want before getting in the game, you all. And that is a rule of thumb for anything in life. Always do your due diligence and always make a decision before diving in to know what is your end goal. And stay with that point too right there, because we wanted to see if anybody on Wisdom or Twitter Spaces, if you have any questions for Tevin, feel free to ask them and come onto the stage at this time. We're just diving in, talking about how Tevin was able to quit his 9-to-5 in order to start a successful and profitable e-commerce business by building it literally from the ground up. And that leads into the next question too. Like, I hear a lot of folks that are content creators in the e-commerce space. Sometimes they may go to certain sites to purchase already successful stores in the e-commerce space. What are your thoughts on basically cherry picking off of someone else's successful store, or do you frown or turn your head towards people that may cherry pick like that?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. I think it's business. As an entrepreneur for e-commerce, this is also just another benefit right there. There's a company by the name of Miel Organics. I hope I didn't say that wrong, but it was a Black-owned company, hair product. She made a deal for about $100 million. So just imagine what she started with, and she was pretty much able to build that up and sell it. So that's what happens in business. Companies like Procter and Gamble, they will come buy businesses to build their portfolio. So I don't see nothing wrong with it as, like, I don't want to say lower level, but we're not conglomerates and stuff like that. Sorry. So yeah, no, I think it's good on both ends. So like, one person is able to, you might build your store for 2,500, it might really hit, and it's now worth 500,000, or it's worth $1 million to somebody else, and they come and buy it. They give you $1 million cash and buy your business. So like, I think that's a win-win. That's actually one of the very benefits of building an e-commerce brand, is that you're selling an asset to somebody else. So somebody else might see it to where it's a lot more potential. They can add their tweaks and their experience to it and make more money. So yeah, I think it's a win-win, and I think more people should look into it for ways to actually build generational wealth, right? We talk about it, but I know Miel Organics got a lot of backlash for selling their company, but we have to get money somehow, and I think $100 million is worth those type of deals.
Yeah, like you're saying right there, you got to know what your number is in order to be bought out, and that comes with, like Tevin is saying, knowing what is your exit strategy. Like talk to people, Tevin, about, like, have you come up with the exit strategy for yourself? Did you have one when you were first starting in the e-commerce space? Like, what are your thoughts on people that go into a business thinking that they're going to work the business forever, and they may not have like an exit strategy to see how can they exit the business if they are bought out, or even if the business is not doing well? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think it's like I said, for us to build generational wealth, I think that's a very underrated way. So I highly suggest it. Some people build businesses to sell. So think of it like you buying a house. Are you building a house from scratch, right? And somebody coming along, and you have to make your house look good enough to where somebody feels comfortable buying it. So yeah, I think it's super important for us to look at those options. A lot of people, when they're actually starting businesses, and this is a crazy fact right here, that a lot of baby boomers are starting to retire, and a lot of their companies are, their family doesn't want to take them on. So a lot of people are going to be either buying their businesses, like younger people, or they're just going to be businesses that just kind of run to the ground. So yeah, you got to have some type of exit strategy. I know we talk about passing businesses down to our children, but sometimes like our children might not want to run that business, or that business might not be as trendy or as popular as it once was. So you have to be ready to exit and make it worth it for you, right? If you don't feel like it's worth it, then you have to keep working it, or you have to shut it down somehow, some way, while you're ahead.
Yeah, those are some jewels right there in itself. You gotta know what is your exit? I hear, just like you said, Tevin, a ton of people that say they don't want to take over their family's business or take over the family biz, and that's something that a lot of adults and even a lot of the elders may not think about when it comes to passing down businesses to their children. Some children just will want to cash out and then take that money and live their life and their goals with that money. And so, like, we always talk about pitfalls and different struggles and hurdles when we are speaking to entrepreneurs on the show. So talk to us about, like, what were some early on hurdles or even pitfalls that you learned in going into the process of e-commerce, and like, what are some things that you would tell someone that's just starting up to look out for or to be mindful of when starting an e-commerce business?
Yeah, so I think it's inevitable for things to happen, and I think that's something that entrepreneurs don't necessarily know once they get started. Something's going to go wrong. I think Andre 3000 had the quote, like, you can't oh man, I just lost it, but you can't plan a picnic, you can't plan the weather. So stuff is going to happen. It's not always going to be perfect, but when those things do happen, you have to learn how to pretty much get around it. Learn why it happened. See if you could possibly avoid it happening in the future. And I think some of the biggest pitfalls we ran into, probably was just cash flow. Like, it's a cash flow business, so you got to know what's coming in, what's going out, be on top of your books, make sure everything's separated early, like I said. So that's probably one of the biggest things, just learning cash flow, because you have to learn how to use, business credit for inventory once you're actually scaling, or for ads, or, constantly bringing traffic in too. So, not really taking any days off. Of course, you can have like a reset, but like not necessarily quitting, because it comes down to a lot of momentum in this, in this industry, in this business. So just having a momentum and just keeping it moving, like I keep going back to.
Yeah, and that's real when it comes to, especially being able to see through any of the early struggles, like when it was time to actually become profitable, like how how was the feeling for you, and also like how consistent each month were you able to be profitable, and like, was there a certain algorithm like we see on social to the metrics of running a successful e-commerce business? Like, what were some of the strategies that you used that worked at the beginning when you were first starting up?
Right. So, the e-commerce industry is just constantly changing. So every day you need to be learning, sticking to trends, learning what's going to be new. Find a community, find some peers, and, make sure you're paying attention to your numbers. So like, when you find something that's working, you want to double down on it somehow. And I'm a firm believer that, what got you to some point is not going to always get you to the next level. So when stuff's working, be like I said, double down on it, but also be open to something new happening, right? Because it might not work the next day. So I think that's like some of the biggest things. Like, for instance, Facebook ads was huge during the pandemic because a lot of companies stopped running ads, so you didn't have to bid as much. But once everything kind of got back right, the iOS update, you had to kind of pivot, and not necessarily saying no more Facebook ads, but just finding different ways and different avenues, such as email marketing, taking advantage of the organic, trend as far as YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram Reels, and really just like building a community for your brand. I think those are like the biggest things that just overall have helped us, and it will continue to help us grow for our business.
Yeah, that's a major jewel right there. Is like, you got to stay updated with the trends. Where are some communities, even with your own brand and your own network, that you would recommend for some jewels for people that are looking to tap in with mentors, coaches, guides, or even those who are making successful businesses for e-commerce?
Yeah, so there's a lot of information just on YouTube. There's Twitter. I think Money Twitter is one of the biggest things I've learned from. There's so much information given out every single day. So just like getting into that space, engaging, commenting, asking people, what do they do? So building up those relationships just on Twitter. Like I said, there's Facebook groups, there's Discord. Like I said, there's YouTube. So just somehow start getting into those rooms. And a lot of the rooms are virtual. So, when I say get into those rooms, just like get into those communities, ask questions, see the like posts that are being, see what's working in there and kind of emulate it for yourself.
Yeah.
So I do have like a Discord. So at the end of the video, I guess you can take a look at my Instagram, reach out to me. I try to speak, I try to speak to everybody. So yeah, just get out there. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Yeah, no, that's a key in itself. You got to be around like-minded entrepreneurs and also like-minded people that are in the e-commerce space to learn from. But I was going to say, stay with that last point. I was going to ask you, when it came to leaving the 9 to 5, like, when would you recommend that someone is able to leave their 9 to 5, and also how much traffic would you need just from a guesstimation, like on your site or on multiple e-commerce sites, before someone can feel comfortable to step away from their traditional?
Yeah, so I think you'll really know the time. I don't think there's a right answer to this, but once you're getting orders and you feel like you have way too many orders to be shipping out, to be sitting here, so you got to make sure your income is either equal or surpassing your income at your job, right? Make sure you have a solid backup plan, because I'm not even gonna sit here and say like 6 months worth of backup. Just make sure you're comfortable. And then if you feel like you made the decision too early, like I said, I don't suggest anybody to just quit their job just because they started an e-commerce business. Just make sure it's actually successful. You might be overwhelmed. That's when we're like, you might be overwhelmed because the job is taking up too much time from you actually scaling further than what you are. So yeah, and if you do make the decision, just be able to have a backup plan. Like, there's nothing wrong with catching a few gigs here and there, whether I don't know, bartending or Uber Eats if you have to, Uber driving. Just make sure you're bringing in income consistently. So yeah, I don't have like a direct number or whatnot. Just make sure your like income is kind of a little bit surpassing, or like, I'm officially at this point where if I take this full step, then it's going up to the moon. But just be ready to have a backup plan. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not really a safety net. It's just kind of like, inevitable that something might happen. So that's my suggestion right there.
Yeah, and even as a follow-up really quick before we get ready to wind down shortly, like, why do you think people struggle with taking a leap of faith and betting on themselves to leave their 9 to 5, or even to go full-time after a side hustle that they really are passionate about? Like, what are your thoughts, King, just on why you think people, especially millennials and Gen Zers and even some baby boomers, still may be afraid to leave? Like, what are your thoughts on that? And how can you motivate somebody to take that leap of faith?
Yeah, and I think it's just a natural, what society has naturally ingrained into us. I think it's very natural for somebody to be fearful what might happen if it goes wrong, right? So just kind of think on the other side, what happens if it goes right? My suggestion is the earlier you do it, the easier it'll be. So like, the longer you stay at your job and like waiting on the right time to start your business, it's going to get harder and harder, right? Because you're going to become, new bills pop up, new people in your life pop up, whether that's relationship or now you have kids. So now you feel like, I really can't do it because this is too good and it's safety. So like, you got to be able to take the risk. Yeah, you have to be ready to take the risk, and that's my suggestion right there.
Yeah, that risk versus reward is a jewel in itself. Like Tevin is telling us, that risk versus reward, everyone that is listening, you gotta be able to take risk, especially while you're young. For those that don't have any kids out there, or even if you may have some kids, you're wanting to build a legacy, those jewels that Tevin is speaking about. So you have to take risk in order to win at life, you can't always play it safe. That's a jewel in itself. And so, like, Tevin, as we get ready to wind down, like, tell us about, like, what are some of your personal goals that you have seen accomplished from being in an e-commerce space, and like, what are some of your long-term goals that you are able to, or on the path to being able to hit now that you're in a successful e-commerce business?
Yeah, so just some short-term goals, being able to, kind of travel as frequently as I want, not really being locked down to a time. I'm able to have a schedule, blessed enough to have a schedule to work when I want. But I try to stay disciplined as possible. So, just from having like a car that I really like, being able to pay with that, that's like short-term goals that were knocked down. But some of my long-term goals is really, I want to sell my health and wellness brand. And when I say sell, just have an exit, where I'm able to take that cash and invest it into other things such as real estate, or even digital real estate. Might be able to, we talked about it earlier, buy another business and grow it from there. And then where I'm the actual buyer this time, and I have the system to be able to grow. That's probably like some of my biggest things, be able to take my money and buy more assets, right? So take my money and buy more money. And I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, it's all about goal setting. I know we talk a lot about goals and setting wins and benchmarks on the RTJ show for any of our guests that come on. And so it's definitely great that you are setting your goals up and actually following through with them, because we know that a goal without a plan is literally a dream that may not be able to manifest itself without the plan. And so definitely we're talking about goal setting, you all. But stay in that last lane right there, King. Like, before we wind down with the final question and the final jewel, like, where can people stay in touch with you after today? Like, how can people track with you and your story? Let people know how they can stay in touch with you. Yeah,
I think reaching out to me on Instagram, seeing some of the, I have free guides in my bio on how you can get started. Lots of information there. Reach out to me on a DM. Follow me on my Instagram. Follow me on my TikTok. I put a lot of value out there. Enough value for you to get started, for you to be motivated to get started. I try to give as many tips as possible. I'm very transparent, so reach out to me. I'm human. I say hi back, so don't be a stranger.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like Tevin said, you can follow him on IG. He's active on IG. That's how I came across this King's page, at Tevin Holiday, with two L's, not one L. Tevin, Tevin Holiday, Holliday. Or you can follow him on TikTok at Tevin Holiday 0 on TikTok. But I wanted to get out of here with this last question too, because a lot of debate is around this, especially when it comes to millennials and even Gen Zers. Like, where do you see TikTok going in the future, especially now that they're trying to sanction it here in the US because of a lot of different foolishness that has been put on it? But where do you see that going for those who are using TikTok as a main business marketing tool, or even potentially for content creators? And like, how do you think it will affect the e-commerce or the digital space if TikTok is basically banned here in the US in the future, or sanctioned even heavier in the future? What are your thoughts?
Right. So I think it's very important. Like, we're in 2023. You really shouldn't be relying on one platform. So, now is a good time for creators to be omni-channel, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, developing their own website and things of that nature. So just in the meantime, whatever happens in TikTok, you have to take advantage of it now. So, it could be gone tomorrow. If that's the case, then I'm sure the world's not going to stop. There's going to be a new social media app. Just kind of like going back to what I said, is being on top of those trends and, knowing what's coming next. You hear that TikTok is going down. Okay, cool. What's going to happen now? So it's business. One of those things that's inevitable. But yeah, just in the meantime, take advantage of its organic growth. So you might not see anything like that anytime soon, but Instagram Reel is doing a good job at emulating TikTok. So take advantage of both. Take advantage of all channels.
Yeah, absolutely, y'all. And so you are literally at the end of our session today, Tevin. But for those that have been listening with us for our Smart Jewel episodes, you know that we always end with a final jewel, which is a final piece of wisdom, Tevin, that you'll be able to leave with our audience. We talked about how you got into literally the e-commerce digital space. We talked about how you were motivated from early to take a leap of faith and to start up your first business that pivoted you into especially your e-commerce successful businesses. Like, what would be a final jewel that you would want to leave with our audience tonight, King?
Yeah, so I think I've hit on it before. Just stay patient, but start. That's like the biggest thing. You got to start somewhere. So it's never going to be a perfect time. It's never going to be the exact situation you expect. Start learning from there. Invest early into your education. So even if you buy a course and it doesn't make sense and you don't think it's that well, it's really the fact that you actually invest into your education. Because if not, you're just going to learn through trials and tribulation. You're probably going to lose money that way. So find that mentor, find those people that can help you out, and just continue to learn from there. So never stop learning. That's probably the biggest advice for I could give somebody as simply as possible. So I hope that helps with somebody.
Absolutely. Just like you heard from Tevin, you should never stop learning, you all. You got to make sure you are staying with your foot on the gas and always being a student and never always ascending to the teacher's role. But Tevin, we want to definitely thank you for coming on today, King, for dropping your jewels of wisdom with our audience. But Smart Jewel listeners, if you have been blessed by today's episode, feel free to sow a seed. We always believe in sowing where you're able to reap at, and this is good soil that you were able to literally hear from today from Tevin Holiday. And so there's 3 ways to give. You could either sow a seed with giving a Cash App seed donation at SMART, SMART, JEWELZ, or you can click the link that we're putting in the comment section to purchase some of our new merch that we just launched from this season, or even you can become a monthly Patreon in order to support our creative endeavors for the RTJ podcast and also our network. And so, Tevin, we're going to say a quick prayer over you, King, to thank you for coming on the show, if that's okay. And then we'll let you enjoy the rest of the day, if that's all right, man.
Of course.
Perfect. Father, I just want to thank you for Tevin. I thank you for his mission, his vision, and also his goals that you have given him. I thank you for just showing him how to help others step out on faith and to also not be fearful of building a business and even being consistent and passionate about their business. And we thank you for allowing him to show others how to set goals early on in life or even later on in their life, because it's never too late. We thank you for who you are, allowing him to build up in his business and his ministry, that he is showing others and motivating others how to run a successful digital e-commerce business. And I pray that you will give him more clients, more resources, and also more opportunities to share his gift and his knowledge with those that you have called to him. I love you, Abba. I praise you, and I give you all the glory, honor, and praise. And it's in Yahshua HaMashiach, the Christ's name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
We appreciate you, King, coming on, man. We'll definitely be in touch, but definitely thank you for coming on for tonight's episode and dropping the jewels with us, King. And we'll talk soon.
I'll talk to you soon. I appreciate it for having me.
All right. Peace.
Have a good one.
All right. All right, y'all. I'm going to do a quick wrap up for today's episode. You literally heard from Tevin Holiday dropping a ton of jewels on the importance of having a call to action, having a calling that is over your life. A lot of people play with their calling, and also a lot of people, they may not know what their calling is. And so We are showing others how to operate in their calling, their gift, and their purpose this year. We even aligned a new brand for our media essentials and our media services titled Smart Media Essentials. And so for the RTJ show and Smart Jewel listeners, we have services that we can provide in online conferences and podcast show creation. And if you're needing a virtual assistant that's behind the scenes operating your live stream or your podcast or your conferences, whether you're someone who's wanting to do webinars, conference or meeting solutions or classroom solutions for educators, we have services that you need. And so take a look at www.smartjewelz, JEWELZ, enterprises.org. That's www.smartjewelzenterprises.org. To see what some of our services for smart media essentials can offer you. Also, you can definitely catch us on all podcast streaming platforms at the Run the Jewelz podcast show. We are taking this show on the road, you all. We're going to international territories. We've already been to South America, Central America last year. We're going to Asia and Africa this year. And so we're not playing, you all. I keep saying that you cannot stay on the sidelines and expect to win the game. You have to be able to be bold, be courageous, and also have faith. Be the light and also spread the light that is within you. And don't be afraid to share that light with others. Don't be selfish with that light. And so you just heard from one of our guests for this season, Tevin Holiday. You can definitely track with Tevin on Instagram again at Tevin, Tevin Holiday, Holliday, or on TikTok at Tevin Holiday 0 to stay in tune with Tevin and to follow him and see what services and events you may be able to track with him with. And then also feel free to follow us and myself here. You can follow our IG page at Smart, SMART, Life Jewels, or Smart Jewelz Enterprises. And then also you can follow me on IG at King Jewels Speaks. And also go to www.smartjewelzenterprises.org to see what some of the services are. We started a travel company that we're taking content creators, podcasters, and entrepreneurs international to different countries to create content on the go and to create international content. And so you won't want to miss all of what we have in store this season and also this year. Those are all of my final jewels for thought. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. Share this with someone you know that can benefit from it. Follow us on all podcast streaming platforms at Run the Jewelz Podcast. And we'll see you all next episode. Stay hydrated, stay blessed, and make sure you shine bright like the bright diamond jewel you are called to be. Peace.